My name is Hannah Reed, and I am 34 years old. 3 months ago, my mother called me for the first time in 9 years. She did not ask how I was doing. She did not ask about my husband. She did not ask about her grandchildren. She said, "We need to talk about a family matter." Then she paused and added 6 words. "We need your help financially, Hannah." I remember looking at my phone after the call ended. I looked at it for a long time, because 9 years is a strange amount of time. Long enough to stop expecting people to come back. Long enough to grieve people who are still alive. Long enough to build an entirely different life. And apparently, long enough for your family to remember you exist when they need money. But what my mother did not know was this. I had spent those 9 years remembering everything. Not because I planned revenge. Not because I wanted to stay angry. I remembered because some things change you forever. The day your parents tell you that you no longer belong to them is one of those things. To understand how my mother ended up calling me after 9 years, you have to go back. Back to when I was 24. Back to a small town called Pine Grove, North Carolina. Population 2,800. One church. One grocery store. One diner with green booths and coffee that somehow always tasted burned. That was my hometown. Everyone knew everyone. People knew who your parents were, where you went to school, and what mistakes you made before you even made them. My father, Thomas Reed, had owned an auto repair shop for 30 years. He was a quiet man. He woke up at 5 every morning, drank black coffee, read the newspaper, left for work at exactly 6:15, every single day. My mother, Carol, worked part-time at the public library, but if you asked anyone in town who she was, they would tell you she was the woman who organized everything. Church events, fundraisers, neighborhood picnics, Christmas drives. My mother loved being respected. She loved being admired. Most of all, she loved appearances. Everything had to look perfect. Perfect house, perfect marriage. Perfect children. I was her oldest child. Quiet, responsible, the daughter who never caused trouble. I made straight A's. I followed rules. I came home on time. I never drank, never snuck out. Never gave my parents a reason to worry. Then there was my younger brother, Ryan. Ryan was 3 years younger than me. He was funny, outgoing. The kind of person who could walk into a room and make friends in 5 minutes. My mother adored him. My father called him his little buddy. I do not say that because I resent my brother. I say it because you need to understand something. In our family, I was appreciated. Ryan was celebrated. There is a difference. When I turned 18, I received a scholarship to a university in Atlanta. I was the first person in my family to leave Pine Grove, the first to move to a big city, the first to earn a degree. I remember my mother crying when she helped me pack. She folded my sweaters and kept stopping to wipe her eyes. Before I left, she handed me a card. Pink flowers on the front. Inside she had written, "No matter where life takes you, you will always belong with us." I kept that card for years. I believed every word. I should not have. College changed everything. I loved Atlanta. The noise, the people, the opportunities. I loved that nobody knew me. Nobody knew my family. Nobody expected me to fit inside a little box. For the first time in my life, I felt free. After graduation, I accepted a job at a marketing company and stayed in Atlanta. I rented a tiny apartment. The kitchen cabinets were crooked. The air conditioner made strange noises. The building smelled like old carpet. I loved every inch of it, because it was mine. Then one Thursday evening, I met Marcus. I had stopped at a bookstore after work. I was carrying 3 books and a coffee. I dropped one. A man bent down and picked it up. He smiled. "You seem determined to buy the entire store." I laughed. He handed me the book. He was tall, dark brown eyes, kind smile, calm voice. There was something about him that made me feel comfortable immediately. I looked at the book in his hand. "You've read this," he nodded, "twice. Is it good?" He smiled again. "It depends. Do you like happy endings?" I laughed, and that was how it started. We talked for 30 minutes, then an hour. The bookstore closed. Neither of us noticed. I learned his name was Marcus Johnson. He worked as a software engineer. He loved books, loved old movies, loved cooking. Before we left, he asked if I wanted to get coffee sometime. I said yes. Our first date lasted 4 hours. Our second lasted 6. By our third date, I knew something was different. Marcus listened. Really listened. When I spoke, he paid attention. He remembered small details, things I had forgotten mentioning, my favorite dessert, the name of my childhood dog, my birthday. He made me feel important. He made me feel safe. I had dated before, but I had never felt this way. We started seeing each other every weekend. Then almost every day. Months passed, then a year. Then 2, somewhere during those 2 years, I fell completely in love with him, and Marcus loved me the same way. Patiently, steadily, without games, without conditions. I thought my family would love him too. I could not have been more wrong. The first time I brought Marcus home to Pine Grove was Thanksgiving. I remember every detail. The weather was cold. My mother made turkey and sweet potatoes. My father watched football. Ryan kept making jokes. Everything felt normal, until Marcus walked through the front door. I introduced him. My mother's smile changed, just slightly, but I noticed. My father's expression changed too. He shook Marcus's hand, said hello, nothing more. Dinner was uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Marcus tried, he asked questions. He complimented my mother's cooking. He asked my father about the repair shop. My father answered politely. Briefly, my mother smiled, but her eyes looked strange. I could not explain it. On the drive back to Atlanta, Marcus reached for my hand. Everything okay? Yeah. You sure? I nodded. I was lying, because I knew something had happened. I just did not know what. 2 days later, my mother called. Hannah. Hi, Mom. Silence. Then she said it. Are you serious about him? I frowned. What do you mean? Him, Marcus? Yes, I laughed a little. Yeah, I am. Another silence. Then she sighed. I can still hear that sigh. Hannah. This relationship isn't practical. I sat up. What? You heard me. No, I don't think I did. She was quiet. Then she said the words that changed everything. There are some things that make life harder. I understood immediately. Immediately, I felt cold. Mom, you know exactly what I'm saying. I could not speak. I don't want this for you. You don't want what? This relationship. I remember standing up and walking to my apartment window. Cars were passing outside. People were laughing on the sidewalk. Everything looked normal. My world suddenly did not. You don't even know him. I don't need to. I closed my eyes. And for the first time in my life, I realized something terrible. I did not know my mother as well as I thought I did. I whispered, "You're judging him because he's black." Silence. Then she said softly, "I am trying to protect you." Protect me. I still think about those words. Because sometimes people dress prejudice in nicer clothing. Sometimes they call it concern. Sometimes they call it protection. Sometimes they call it love, but it is still prejudice. I did not sleep that night. Neither did Marcus, because I told him everything. He listened quietly. Then he asked one question. Do you want to leave? I looked at him. What? If this is too much. I interrupted him immediately. No, he nodded. Then he took my hand. And said something I never forgot. I would never ask you to choose between me and your family. I started crying, because I already knew something he didn't. One day. My family was going to ask exactly that. I wish I could tell you that my mother changed her mind. I wish I could tell you my father called and said none of it mattered. I wish I could tell you my family met Marcus, got to know him, and realized they had been wrong. None of that happened. Things became worse. A lot worse. For the next few weeks, my mother called almost every day. Every conversation ended the same way. Hannah, think carefully. I have thought carefully. You don't understand what your future will look like. I understand it perfectly. No, you don't. Then she would sigh, long, heavy. As if I was the one hurting her. At first, I thought she simply needed time. I thought maybe if she met Marcus again, things would improve. I was wrong, because then my father called. My father almost never called. He was not the kind of man who talked about feelings. When his name appeared on my phone, I immediately knew something was wrong. Hannah, hi Dad, we need to talk. The words sounded serious. I sat down on my couch. Okay. He was quiet for several seconds, then he said it. This relationship needs to end. I actually thought I had heard him incorrectly. What? You heard me. I stared at the wall. I'm not ending my relationship. He sighed. You've always been smart. Thank you, so be smart now. I could hear irritation in his voice. You're making a mistake. I swallowed. No, Dad. I'm not. You don't know what you're inviting into your life. I closed my eyes. I suddenly felt tired, exhausted, because I finally understood something. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't fear. This wasn't concern. It was exactly what I thought it was, and they weren't even trying to hide it anymore. I asked quietly, if Marcus looked exactly the same but had white skin, would we be having this conversation? Silence. Then, that's not the point. It was absolutely the point. When people avoid answering simple questions, they usually do it because the answer is uncomfortable. I felt my chest tighten. Dad, he's kind. Silence. He's honest. Silence. He treats me well. Silence. He loves me. Finally, my father spoke. I don't approve. I laughed, not because it was funny, because I suddenly didn't know what else to do. I had spent 26 years believing my parents were good people. And now, I was having a conversation that felt like it belonged in another century. When the call ended, I sat on my couch for almost an hour. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there. Sometimes disappointment hurts more than anger. Marcus came over that night. He took one look at me and knew. What happened? I told him, every word. He listened quietly. Then he sat beside me. I'm sorry. I shook my head. You didn't do anything. I know, I looked at him. Why are you apologizing? He gave me a sad smile. Because I know this hurts. And that made me cry, not because of my parents. Because of him, because the man my parents refused to accept was showing me more kindness than they were. A month later, Marcus proposed. There was nothing elaborate about it. No crowd. No expensive restaurant. No photographer hiding behind a tree. It happened on a Tuesday. I had a terrible day at work. I was stressed, exhausted. I came home to my apartment. Marcus was in the kitchen. He had cooked dinner, pasta, garlic bread, and my favorite chocolate cake. I laughed. What's all this? You looked like you needed rescuing. I smiled. Halfway through dinner, he stood up. I thought he was getting more water. Instead, he walked back carrying a small box. I stared at him. Hannah, he looked nervous. Actually nervous. I had never seen him nervous. I love you. I couldn't breathe. You make ordinary days feel important. I felt tears filling my eyes. You make me laugh. Tears. You make me want to be a better person. More tears. I don't want another day without you in it. Then he got down on one knee. I covered my mouth. Hannah Reed. Will you marry me? I didn't even let him finish. Yes, he laughed. I laughed. Then I cried. Then somehow I laughed and cried at the same time. It remains one of the happiest moments of my life. I called my mother the next day. I wanted her to hear it from me. I still believed she would eventually come around. I was wrong. Again. Mom. Hi, sweetheart. I smiled. I hadn't heard her call me sweetheart in weeks. I have news. What kind of news? I looked at my ring. I'm engaged. Silence. A long silence. Then I heard her crying. At first, I thought they were happy tears. I actually smiled. Then she said, oh no. I stopped smiling. Oh no, more crying. Hannah, no. I felt cold. Mom, no, no. No, I looked around my apartment. Nothing felt real. Then I heard another voice, my father. What happened? She answered him. She's marrying him. The room became quiet. Then my father took the phone. Hannah. His voice sounded hard, very hard. Yes, if you marry him, we're done. I blinked. What? We're done. I couldn't breathe. What does that mean? It means you make this choice and you make it without us. I stood up. Dad, no, you don't mean that. I do. I sat back down because my legs suddenly felt weak. You can't possibly mean that. I do. I started crying. I am your daughter. You are making your decision. I wiped my eyes. And you're making yours. Silence. Then he said the words I will never forget. If you marry him, don't call this family again. The call ended, just like that. No goodbye, nothing. I stared at my phone. Marcus found me 30 minutes later. I was sitting on the floor, crying. The ring was still on my hand. I looked up at him. My family just disowned me. Those words sounded impossible. Like something from a movie, not my life. Marcus sat beside me immediately. He wrapped his arms around me. I cried so hard I could barely breathe. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer solutions, didn't tell me everything would be okay. He simply stayed. Sometimes that's all love is. Staying. After I finally calmed down, I asked him something, a question I had never asked anyone. Do you think I'm making a mistake? He looked surprised, then he shook his head. No, you don't. No, I looked at him. What if I lose everyone? He reached for my hand. Then we'll build our own family. I started crying again, because I suddenly realized something. Love isn't the people who demand conditions. Love is the people who stay when conditions appear. 3 months later, we got married. The wedding was small. 42 guests, mostly friends, a few coworkers, Marcus's family. They welcomed me immediately. His mother hugged me the first time we met. His father called me daughter before we were even engaged. His sisters texted me constantly. They included me, accepted me, loved me, and honestly, that scared me. Because I wasn't used to love being so uncomplicated. The morning of our wedding, I kept looking at my phone. No messages, no calls, nothing. I still hoped. I still believed my family would appear. Maybe at the last minute, maybe after realizing what they were about to lose, I was wrong. At 3 o'clock, I started walking down the aisle. I looked toward the doors. Empty, I looked again. Still empty, I smiled anyway because Marcus was waiting, and when he looked at me, I forgot everyone else existed. For a few minutes, it was just us. Two people choosing each other, no conditions. No ultimatums, just love. But later that night, after everyone left and the music stopped, I cried, because even happiness has room for grief, and I finally understood something. My parents had kept their promise. I had married Marcus, and I no longer had a family, at least, that's what I believed. I didn't know it then. But the silence that followed would last exactly 9 years, and before it ended, my family would need something from me that they never imagined I would have. The first year was the hardest. People don't talk about what happens after you're disowned. Movies usually end there. A dramatic argument, a slammed door, someone walking away. Then the credits roll. Real life doesn't work like that. Real life continues. You still wake up every morning, you still go to work, you still buy groceries, you still pay bills. And every now and then, something reminds you that people who are supposed to love you have decided not to. The first Christmas was awful. I bought presents anyway. I don't know why. Maybe because habits are hard to break. Maybe because some part of me still believed everything was temporary. I bought my mother a scarf, blue, her favorite color. I bought my father a set of tools. I bought Ryan tickets to a baseball game. I wrapped everything carefully. Added cards, Merry Christmas, I love you. Simple, nothing complicated. Marcus drove me to the post office. I remember standing in line holding the packages. Are you sure? He asked softly. I nodded. I think so. He kissed my forehead. Okay. 2 weeks later, every package came back, unopened. The shipping labels had been covered with new stickers. Return to sender. I stared at the boxes for a long time. Then I carried them into our apartment. Marcus didn't say anything. He simply helped me put them on a shelf. I cried in the bathroom that night, not loudly, quietly, because there is something particularly painful about unopened gifts. They are evidence. Evidence that someone decided not to care. The second year became easier, not because I missed my family less, because I adjusted. Human beings adjust to almost everything. I stopped checking my phone, stopped waiting for messages, stopped imagining apologies. Marcus and I focused on our lives. I received a promotion. Marcus changed companies and accepted a position with a technology startup. We moved into a small townhouse. 2 bedrooms, tiny backyard, old hardwood floors. We loved it. Every Friday night, we ordered takeout and watched movies. Every Saturday morning, Marcus made pancakes. He was terrible at making pancakes. They were always slightly burned. I ate them anyway. We were happy, actually happy, and that confused me sometimes, because I thought losing my family would destroy me. Instead, I was building a life, a good one. Then something happened. I became pregnant. I found out on a rainy Tuesday. I took 3 tests. Then I bought 2 more. I didn't trust any of them. Marcus came home from work and found me sitting on the bathroom floor. Hannah, I looked up. I started crying. Immediately, he looked terrified. What happened? I handed him one of the tests. He looked at it, then looked at me, then looked back at the test. We're having a baby, I laughed through my tears. Apparently. He sat beside me. Neither of us said anything for almost a minute. Then he started crying too. That made me laugh harder. We both looked ridiculous. 2 adults sitting on a bathroom floor crying over a stick. But it was one of the happiest moments of my life. That night we talked for hours. Names, nursery colors, schools, everything. Then I got quiet. Marcus noticed immediately. What? I looked down. My parents don't even know. Silence. I know. They don't know they're going to have a grandchild. He reached for my hand. I started crying again, because some losses come back in waves. You think you're okay. Then something beautiful happens, and suddenly you remember who isn't there. A few weeks later, I sent my mother a letter, not because I expected anything, because I wanted her to know. I included an ultrasound picture. I wrote, Mom, I know we haven't spoken in a long time. I wanted you to know that I'm having a baby. I hope you're doing well. Love, Hannah. I mailed it. Then I waited. I didn't mean to wait. I tried not to, but I did, every day for 3 weeks. Then the envelope came back, unopened. Again, the ultrasound picture was still inside. I sat at our kitchen table holding that envelope. Marcus found me there. He didn't ask questions. He looked at the envelope. Then he looked at me and understood everything. He wrapped his arms around me. I cried for almost an hour because it wasn't about me anymore. It was about our child. They didn't reject an invitation. They rejected their grandchild. Something changed inside me that day. Not anger, not hatred, acceptance. I stopped trying, completely. I packed every returned letter into a small gray box. I added the unopened Christmas packages, the returned cards, the photographs, everything. Then I placed the box on the top shelf of our closet, and I left it there. Months later, our daughter was born. We named her Lily. She had Marcus's eyes, my nose, and the loudest cry I had ever heard. I remember holding her for the first time. She looked so small, so perfect. I made a promise. I whispered it while she slept. You will never wonder if you're loved. Marcus heard me. He kissed my forehead. Then he whispered something too. You'll never doubt it for a second. And she never did. The years moved quickly after that. Lily learned to walk, learned to talk, started school. Then we had another child, a little boy named Noah. He looked exactly like Marcus. Same smile, same dimples. Our house became noisy. Messy, wonderful. We built traditions. Friday movie nights, Saturday pancakes, summer road trips, Christmas pajamas, little things, ordinary things. The kind of things that become your whole world. Marcus left the startup and started his own software company with 2 friends. At first, I was nervous, very nervous. Starting a company sounded risky. Terrifying, honestly, but Marcus believed in it, so I believed in him. The first year was difficult, really difficult. There were months when money felt tight, months when we delayed vacations, months when we counted expenses carefully, but we managed because we were a team. Then one evening, Marcus came home looking shocked. I looked up from the couch. What happened? He blinked. Then laughed. I think something amazing just happened. I sat up. What? We got the contract. What contract? The big one. I stared at him. Then I understood. The contract. The one he had spent almost 8 months chasing. I jumped off the couch. He laughed. I hugged him. The kids started cheering even though they had no idea what was happening. That contract changed everything. Then another contract came, then another. The company grew, then grew again. Years passed, and one day I looked around our house and realized something. We had built an incredible life. The little apartment, the tiny townhouse, the late bills, the stress, it had all led here, and my family had missed every single moment, every birthday, every Christmas, every first step, every success, every struggle, every victory, they missed all of it. I thought about that sometimes, then I stopped. Because eventually your present becomes more important than your past. I didn't know it then, but somewhere during those years, someone from my hometown had seen our lives. Someone had noticed Marcus's company. Someone had started talking, and in Pine Grove, people talk. A lot. 9 years after my family decided I no longer existed. They were about to hear my name again, and this time, it was attached to something they wanted. Success is strange. It changes your address, it changes your schedule. Sometimes it changes your bank account. But the strangest thing about success is this: people who never wanted anything to do with you suddenly remember your name. By our 9th year of marriage, Marcus's company had become something none of us expected. They had started with 3 employees. Now there were over 100. They had clients in multiple states. Investors, partnerships, a headquarters building with their company name on the front. Sometimes I still couldn't believe it, because I remembered every step. I remembered the tiny apartment. I remembered counting grocery money. I remembered nights when Marcus stayed awake until 2 in the morning writing code. I remembered him doubting himself. I remembered him wondering whether he had made a mistake. Success looked impressive from the outside, but I knew exactly how much sacrifice lived inside it. One Friday afternoon, I was at home folding laundry when Marcus walked through the door. He looked stunned. Actually stunned. I laughed. "You look like someone just told you aliens landed," he smiled. "We've been offered a buyout," I blinked. "A what?" "A buyout," I stared at him. "How much?" He named a number. I thought I heard him incorrectly. I asked him again. He repeated it. I sat down, immediately, because my legs suddenly didn't feel reliable. Marcus laughed. I started laughing too. Then neither of us spoke, because some numbers are too large for immediate conversation. They simply sit in the room. A few weeks later, the deal was finalized. Everything changed, not all at once. But enough. We paid off our house, started college funds for Lily and Noah, set up investments, made plans, and then we kept living our lives. Friday movies, Saturday pancakes, school events. Soccer practice, nothing dramatic, because after struggling for so long, peace becomes more valuable than luxury. I thought our lives would continue quietly. I was wrong. It started with social media. I received a friend request. The name looked familiar. Angela Miller. I hadn't spoken to Angela since high school. I accepted. A few minutes later, she sent me a message. "Oh my goodness, Hannah." "It's been forever," I smiled. We exchanged small talk. Then she asked, "Are you still in Atlanta?" "Yes. I heard your husband owns some huge company now." I paused. Interesting. Because I had never posted much about Marcus's business. Neither had he. I typed, "Who told you that?" She answered immediately, "Everybody knows. Everybody." I stared at my phone. I almost laughed. Because Pine Grove had not changed. Small towns collect information the way libraries collect books. A week later, another message arrived. Then another. Old classmates, former neighbors. People I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone seemed unusually curious. "What are you doing these days? Are you still married? How many children do you have? Is your husband really successful?" I answered politely, but something felt strange. Then I forgot about it, until the first phone call came. Unknown number, I answered. "Hannah," I frowned. "Yes, it's Mrs. Harper." I blinked. Mrs. Harper had been my 3rd-grade teacher. "Mrs. Harper," she laughed. "Oh my goodness, you sound exactly the same." We talked for 10 minutes, then she said something unexpected. "I ran into your mother yesterday." My entire body became still. "Oh, she says you're doing very well." I didn't answer, because my mother hadn't spoken to me in 9 years. Mrs. Harper continued. She seemed very proud. Proud. The word actually hurt, because pride requires participation. Pride requires presence. My mother had missed everything. She wasn't there during the hard years. She wasn't there for our first apartment, our first house, Lily's birth, Noah's birth, Marcus's business, none of it, yet somehow, she was proud. I ended the call and sat quietly. Marcus found me at the kitchen table. "You okay?" I nodded. "No," he sat down. "What happened?" I told him, every word. He listened. Then he sighed. They know, I looked at him. What? They know about us, I frowned. So, he shrugged. I don't know, it just feels like the beginning of something. I laughed. Marcus, he smiled. What? You're being dramatic, he grinned. I married a woman who loves mystery novels. It rubbed off on me. I laughed. Then I forgot about it again. 2 weeks later, my cousin Jenna called. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken in years. Hannah, Jenna, hi. Her voice sounded nervous, very nervous. We exchanged awkward greetings. Then she became quiet. I waited. Finally, she said, I think you should know something. I sat down. Okay. I had dinner with your parents. Silence. And they asked a lot of questions. I frowned. What kind of questions? Questions about you. I didn't speak. She continued. They wanted to know where you live. Silence. They wanted to know about Marcus. More silence. They wanted to know whether his company is really successful. I looked out the window. The sun was setting. Lily and Noah were playing in the yard. Everything suddenly felt different. What exactly did they ask? Jenna inhaled. How much money do you think they have? I closed my eyes. There it was, the real question. Not is she happy, not are the children healthy. Not does she miss us. How much money do you think they have? I thanked Jenna and ended the call. Then I sat there for a long time. Marcus came home 20 minutes later. He found me exactly where he had left me. What happened? I looked at him. I think my family knows we're wealthy. He became very still. Oh, I nodded. They've been asking questions. Silence. Then what kind of questions? I told him. He sighed, a long sigh. Then he sat beside me. Neither of us spoke. Because we were both thinking the same thing. After 9 years, why now? A month later, I got my answer. It was Thursday, 3:17 in the afternoon. I remember because I had just finished a meeting. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello, silence. Then a familiar voice. Hannah. I forgot how to breathe because even after 9 years, I recognized my mother's voice immediately. Older, softer, but unmistakably hers. I didn't say anything. Neither did she. Finally she spoke. How are you? I almost laughed. 9 years, and that was the opening line. I'm fine. That's good. Silence. Then I've missed you. I looked out my office window. People were crossing the street. Cars moved through traffic. Everything looked perfectly normal. Nothing felt normal. Because people don't disappear for 9 years and suddenly miss you. Not without a reason. I knew it. She knew it. The silence between us knew it. Finally she said, we need to talk. I closed my eyes. There it was. Not can we rebuild our relationship. Not can I meet my grandchildren. Not can you forgive me. We need to talk. I asked quietly, about what? Silence. Then she said 6 words. We need your help financially, Hannah. I opened my eyes and suddenly, everything made sense. I wish I could tell you I was shocked. I wasn't. I wish I could tell you her words broke my heart. They didn't. Because somewhere during those 9 years, I had already prepared myself for this moment. I just never expected it to happen exactly this way. We need your help financially, Hannah. Those were my mother's first honest words to me in almost a decade. I leaned back in my chair. Outside my office window, the afternoon traffic continued moving. Inside me, something became very calm. I asked, what kind of help? I heard her exhale, as if she had been afraid I would hang up. Your father retired 3 years ago. I said nothing. Ryan's business didn't work out. Silence. And we've had some financial problems. Financial problems. Interesting phrase. People use phrases like that when the reality is much worse. How bad? Silence. Then, very bad. I waited. Eventually she said it. We're in debt. I closed my eyes. Not because I felt overwhelmed, because I suddenly remembered another conversation, 9 years earlier. If you marry him, don't call this family again. I opened my eyes. What exactly do you need from me? We should talk in person. I almost laughed. 9 years ago, I wasn't welcome at their dinner table. Now they wanted a meeting. I said, no, silence. Then, no, another silence. Hannah, please. The word please sounded strange coming from my mother. I couldn't remember the last time I had heard her say it. I'll listen over the phone, she inhaled slowly. We owe a lot of money. How much? Another silence. Then she named the amount. I blinked, twice. The number was enormous. What happened? We made some investments. I closed my eyes again because investments, plural, that meant this wasn't one mistake, this was several. We need help. There it was again, we. Not I miss you, not I'm sorry, just we need help. I looked at the family photograph sitting on my desk. Marcus, Lily, Noah, me, the four of us smiling on a beach last summer. I suddenly knew exactly what I wanted to say, but I didn't say it. Instead I said, I'll think about it. She sounded relieved. Oh, thank you. I ended the call. Then I sat there for a long time. That evening I told Marcus everything. He listened quietly. As always, when I finished he asked only one question. What do you want to do? I looked at him. I honestly don't know, he nodded. And then he said something that I never forgot. Whatever you decide, make sure it brings you peace. Peace, not revenge, not punishment, peace. I thought about those words all night. The next morning my phone rang again. My mother, I answered. We were thinking maybe you could come to dinner tomorrow. Again, I closed my eyes. Okay, really? Yes, she sounded surprised. Honestly, I was surprised too, because part of me needed to see them, not for closure, for clarity. I wanted to know whether anything had changed. The next evening I drove to Pine Grove. I had not been back in almost 9 years. The town looked smaller. The diner was still there. The grocery store was still there. The church still had the same white paint. Some things never change. My parents' house looked older. The flower beds were empty. The porch needed repairs. For a moment I just sat in my car. Then I got out. My mother opened the door before I reached it. She looked older, much older, gray hair, lines around her eyes. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then she hugged me. I stood completely still, because it felt strange. Like hugging someone I used to know, she stepped back. You look beautiful. I smiled politely. Thank you. Inside, my father was sitting in his usual chair. Ryan was there too. For a moment, nobody moved. Then my father stood. Hello, Hannah. Hello, not I'm sorry, not I missed you. Just hello. I suddenly understood exactly how the evening would go. Dinner was awkward, very awkward. We talked about weather, traffic, the town, nothing important. No one mentioned 9 years. No one mentioned my wedding. No one mentioned Marcus. No one mentioned my children. Finally, my father cleared his throat. He looked at me, then at my mother, then back at me. We're in a difficult position. There it was, straight to business. I nodded. We understand you're doing very well. Interesting. Not how are you, but we understand. I said nothing. Ryan leaned forward. We heard Marcus's company sold. I looked at him. He smiled awkwardly. I guess congratulations are in order. Congratulations. 9 years late. I almost laughed. Then my father spoke again. We were hoping you could help us. I looked around the table. The same dining room, the same chairs, the same people. Only one thing had changed. Now they needed something. I asked quietly. Why now? Silence. I waited. Nobody answered, so I asked again. Why now? My mother looked uncomfortable. My father looked away. Ryan stared at the table. I suddenly understood. None of them wanted to answer because the answer sounded terrible. I helped them. Wealth. Nobody spoke. I nodded slowly. I see. My mother finally said, That's not fair. I looked at her. Isn't it? Silence. I reached for my glass of water. Then I said something I had wanted to say for years. When I got married, where were you? Silence. When Lily was born, silence. When Noah was born, more silence. When Marcus started his company, nothing. I looked at each of them. 9 years. Nobody looked at me. I nodded. Okay. My mother started crying. Hannah, no, she stopped. I had never interrupted my mother before, not once in my entire life. I looked directly at her. You rejected my wedding. Silence. You returned my letters. Silence. You returned Christmas gifts. Silence. You returned an ultrasound picture. That one landed. Because my mother's face changed immediately, she looked shocked. You sent. Yes. Silence. You didn't know. No answer. I looked at my father. You knew I was pregnant. He looked confused. I understood immediately. Neither of them knew because they never opened the envelope. The room became very quiet. I reached into my purse. I pulled out my phone. Then I opened photographs. Pictures of returned packages, returned cards, returned letters. I handed my phone to my mother. She stared at the screen, then at another picture, then another. She started crying harder. I took my phone back, and for the first time in 9 years, I said exactly what I felt. You didn't lose me. Silence. You threw me away. Nobody spoke. I stood up. My father looked alarmed. Hannah, I picked up my purse. We still need help. I looked at him, and suddenly I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was tired, very tired, because I finally understood something. The people sitting in front of me didn't know me anymore. They didn't know my husband. They didn't know my children. They didn't know my life. They only knew one thing. I had money. I smiled sadly. Then I said the truest thing I had said all evening. You don't need me. Silence. You need my bank account. Nobody argued, because nobody could. I looked at my mother one last time. Then at my father, then at Ryan, and I said, I hope things work out for you. I turned and walked toward the door. Hannah, I stopped. My mother was crying. Please don't leave like this. I looked back. 9 years earlier, I had begged them not to leave me. Now they were begging me to stay. Life can be strange. I smiled gently. I'm not leaving. They looked confused. I left 9 years ago. Then I walked out. I drove home. The entire way I expected to cry. I didn't. I felt peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt completely peaceful. When I got home, Marcus opened the door. He looked at my face, then smiled. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. He wrapped his arms around me. I hugged him tightly, then I looked past him. Lily and Noah were asleep upstairs. Our house was warm, safe, full of love. I finally understood something. Family isn't built by blood. Family is built by presence, by kindness, by showing up. And the people who had shown up for me every single day were already inside this house. I didn't lose my family 9 years ago. I found it.